Hi folks, Matthew here with BayWa. I see a few people just signing in. We'll just give it a minute or two and we'll be right back with our great friends from Kinetic. Thanks. Hey folks, Matthew Lanigan here again with BayWa RE. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer here at BayWa. Really appreciate y'all taking time to learn a bit about Kinetic racking. Kinetic's been a great partner of ours, our original racking supplier, and maintained that for over 11 years now. So time has flown. A couple of things before we get going. This will be recorded. It comes out in the monthly newsletter, so you can look out for it there. Also, it's on our YouTube channel. If you haven't signed up for our YouTube channel, we'd really appreciate it if you did. You can find this training and webinar as well as all the previous ones that we've done. Also, if you haven't had a chance to sign up to our web shop, we'd love that you did. You can go in there, you can find spec sheets, install manuals, warranty docs, pricing, pay your bills. It's a very powerful tool that we put a lot of time and resources into over the last couple of years. Continuing education is extremely important to BayWa. We do it internally, so we're really happy to extend that to our customers externally. And just before we get going, if I could have somebody just put something into the question box to make sure that it's working well. Great, thank you, Ian. And without further ado, you can never have enough Matthews in the world. So we're going to go over to Matthew Schaefer, Engineering Project Manager with Kinetic. Matthew.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Glad to be here, and we appreciate the invitation to meet with your customers and talk about our product, some of our latest innovations, what's new and what's upcoming. So with that said, we can get started here. So today we'll be talking about some of our most popular products, and we'll be making some good updates as far as new product announcements. So as was said, my name is Matthew Schaefer. I'm the Engineering Project Manager at Kinetic Solar Racking and Mounting. I come in with 10 years of experience doing a bit of everything in the grid-tied, off-grid, hybrid, and BESS space. I've used Kinetic racking myself for many years, and we always love to hear feedback. So Kinetic Solar is a proudly Canadian company. We are based in Ontario, and we have 45+ years of manufacturing experience. We specialize in roof mount and ground mount racking, as well as carports and awnings. We also offer custom solutions, and our products are certified to UL 2703 and the Canadian designation TIL A40. We do test for heavy snow regions. That's for 5.4 kPa. There's very few places in Canada where you'll see that high of a snow load, but we like to make sure that our products are compatible nationwide. We procure our materials from Canadian vendors, And as such, we're largely unaffected by the tariff situation. Billets are sourced in Quebec, and we extrude in Ontario and Alberta. So I want to get started going through our system configurator. Not too many people are aware of this feature on our website, but if you go to kineticsolar.com, you'll see this button over on the right-hand side. And what that will do is help you develop your bill of materials. Now, if we take a look at a standard example, let's say we have 2 rows of 6 and 1 row of 5 in portrait. You can see that there in the top right corner. Mids and end clamps are fairly easy. A lot of people are quite familiar. Every row has 4 end clamps, so you'd have 12 end clamps. And then the mid clamps are just number of modules in a row, -1 times 2. But what about everything else, right? You have your different varying lengths of rails, your joiners, spacing for your different mounts, ground lugs, squirrel guard mesh, which is of course around the perimeter of the array, the clips. So the configurator was developed just to make this as easy as possible. So when you go to our website and you open the configurator, you will see this screen. You'll simply just put in your project name and which country the project is located in. Based on the project location that you specify, the wind, snow, and rain will be automatically pre-filled. And then you'll select if the terrain is going to be open or rough. And open is, of course, your open fields. Maybe it's adjacent to a lake or a pond, a big open area without much surface obstruction, such as trees in urban areas. And then rough would be quite the opposite. Importance factor. So a low importance factor would be a building that has no direct hazard or indirect hazard to human life. This would commonly be a storage shed, maybe a warehouse if it's primarily designated as storing materials. But as soon as there's people being introduced, the lowest importance factor we would typically recommend is going to be the normal level. And then high would be anything where there's a high importance, such as a school, a library, a hospital, and of course, any facility containing hazardous materials, such as if it's flammable or explosive gases held under pressure. And then post-disaster, which would be a gathering place of a very high importance. So this could be a stadium or other places like that. Next, you'll choose your roof slope, building height, and roof type, if it's shingle or metal roof, and then your truss spacing. So the truss spacing you might specify as 24 inches. And if the system allows, you'll be able to enable a 48-inch connection spacing. So the truss spacing you select on this screen is separate from what the actual connection spacing that could be permitted that comes later. You'll choose your module. So you'll choose the manufacturer, and then there'll be a filtered list of modules underneath that. If you ever find that your module that you're using is not included, shoot us over an email to any of our email addresses, info or engineering or myself, Matthew, at kineticsolar.com, and we will just get that updated. So after you do that, you'll be looking at this screen. You'll see a visual representation of the layout that you specified. So here we have 3 rows of 6. Then you've actually clicked on that 3rd row last module indicated there, and that removes the module from the array to get our 2 rows of 6 and 1 row of 5. On the next screen, once you're done with your layout, you'll specify the mount connection that you want to use. And in this one, we've selected flashing kit with 4 2-inch self-drilling screws for deck mounting. You'll also have some options here if you'd like to include a cable raceway, microinverter optimizer mounting kits, and of course, rodent guard protection mesh. And then you're done. You have your bill of materials here, and you can take a look through. You can choose to add some spares if you wanted to have some spares added. And then you can print that report and deliver it to your contacts over at BayWa, and they'll be able to fulfill your order based on that bill of materials. You're also left with this report that you can download for your own project records. It includes all of the details you've input, and of course, the bill of materials that you can file away in your project files. In that report, you also have a good description of the racking composition. So you can see here where we have that 1 dash indicates where the rest are zeros. That 1 dash is where the 1 module was removed. And you can see the rail composition is being explained here. Rail 0 is essentially your uppermost rail near the peak of the roof, and that it's comprised of 2 138-inch rails in this example. And then if you look at rail 5, for example, the last one on the list, it's made up of 1 256. So you get a good overview of the composition of the racking system. Next, we're going to get into some of our components. I imagine a lot of you are quite familiar with some, but maybe not all. So if you have any questions, do feel free to put them in the chat. This, of course, is our rapid rail, our most popular rail, and specifically used for roof mounts. Mid and end clamps, they come pre-assembled at a specific height. So when you order them, it's a 30-46, meaning that the clamp can accommodate a 30 millimeter to a 46 millimeter module thickness. Bonding is passed through the mid clamps. Now, if you see that exploded view of that mid clamp, that is our newest mid clamp, which actually integrates the bonding right into the bolt assembly. So you'll see that bonding washer essentially has little teeth that will come into contact with the module frame. Then bonding is carried through the module frames through the mid clamps. Our clamps are available in black anodized or mill. Black is a really nice finish when you're using black modules up on the roof. It's a very nice aesthetic appearance. And the mid clamps stay lifted when they're lifted. So as you might imagine, you're going along on your roof, you're slotting in all your mid clamps. They can slide in the channel quite easily, so you can move them over when you're going to lay your next module. But what I find personally really cool is that the mid clamp will stay lifted, so you don't have to grow a third arm to lift that clamp before sliding in that next module. So we're happy to announce our newest end clamp, the hidden end clamp. So this is a really great solution to provide a nice aesthetic finish at the edge perimeter of an array. So what it does is that it'll actually slide into the channel of the rail, and it'll clamp on the inside underneath of the return on the module frame. Next, we'll get into some of our mounts. Here you can see this is an overview of all of our most popular mounts. So the Bulldog is our newest mount. So this is 4 screws into the decking or 2 screws into the truss. And of course, your decking mount makes it go super quickly, minimum of a 7/16 OSB or plywood. So the Bulldog mount can be installed on the roof surface sheathing, trusses, joists, or reinforcing members. The pre-installed butyl layer underneath prevents leaks. So there is a butyl underneath, and if you see on this image on the right, we actually have a little lip that comes down of aluminum that retains the butyl. So even when you have your super hot summers, you get, well, you can get them in Alberta for sure, super hot temperatures, that butyl will always stay retained with the mount under the pressure and held in with those lips. So here you can see the 4 screw option and then the 2 screws for if you're mounting a truss. So we have all of our options here. There is a 1 screw option. It's not as popular. We would typically recommend the 2 screws, but if you're already using a single screw option and continue to do that, we do have approval for a single screw. Next is the flashing, probably our most popular, most well-known mount solution. So for asphalt shingle roofs, it slides up under the shingle and provides a weather-tight, watertight mounting solution. So it's a non-reflective coating. It's very malleable. If you've ever held our flashings, it's really quite unique. You can bend these and cut them quite easily if you have to get around a nail or some plumbing stack or anything like that. Easy to trim, easy to bend, and they bend right back without wear. So you can bend these things in both directions 100 times. And like you might imagine with some metals that might snap, this one is just so ductile. You can just keep bending it and it'll go right back. So this is also available in a deck mount option. So here you can see our 4 screws, but otherwise it is 2 screws into the truss. Next, we have our Universal L. Very quick installs, of course, just taking the mount and integrating it right into the L bracket. So also available in a deck mount and truss mount option. It includes a butyl layer underneath to provide our weatherproofing. And it's a really popular solution here. I personally installed these and it makes for a very quick install. We also have our articulating L, which was previously called the Quonset hut mount. It was designed specifically to mount onto Quonsets, but can really be helpful for any kind of change of plane racking solution. So you might have a roof at a steep slope going to a shallow slope, and you want to mount your modules right across that change of slope. You can do that with the articulating L. So here you can see it installed close up underneath of the Quonset and how that looks. So basically those rails can rotate independently, and then they line up with where they need to be to mount the module. We also have the giraffe mount, which takes some inspiration of including a L bracket into the mount. And this will mount so that your rails are sent up the roof slope. So you can still mount portrait. It'll just from the ground appear that the modules are mounted in landscape orientation, but they will be clamped on their long sides in portrait, as is the most cost-effective way to mount modules. And mounts into the decking, if you have decking that is 7/16 thick, but most commonly on a metal roof you would have strapping, and these would be mounted into the strapping. You'll see as well, we have those little retaining lips there. So the butyl is held in place and provides a weathertight solution. We also have the rhino mount, very similar to the giraffe, but the rhino does not include the L bracket. This provides you a number of unique solutions. If you wanted to mount diagonally across the roof, so rather than sending rails up the slope or across the slope, you can go diagonally across the slope. And this can create really nice aesthetic finishes if you have a certain feature of roof that you're trying to navigate around. It can be very helpful. So it's a very tall gap there. You can straddle a seam or a rib of a metal roof and still tap into the strapping there. You can see that's a 1 inch high that it can jump over. Of course, we have hanger bolts. These are our custom hanger bolts. They are self-drilling for lumber, so you don't have to pre-drill. If you were to pre-drill, you just want to make sure that you're using the right size of a drill bit so that you do get all the thread that's needed for that pull-out strength. So it's available in a 2 inch, a 4 inch, and a 5 inch. The 2 inch we haven't listed here. It's not as common, but some specialty projects do require it. And what's cool about the 2 inch hang bolt is that it can be self-threading. So if you were drilling into, say, a steel Z-purlin on a commercial building, and you wanted to mount hanger bolts into that steel Z-purlin, or Z-purlin, because we're in Canada, you could accomplish that with the 2 inch self-threading hanger. Now spacers. If you have an air gap, as depicted on the image on the right, you can see that we're on the top of that trapezoidal roof profile. There is an air gap underneath. Now, if you don't have that spacer inserted there, what's going to happen is when you tighten down that hanger bolt, you're going to compress and crunch that metal roof profile. That'll create a place where water could collect and get in underneath the roof. So including the spacer allows you to really tighten that hanger bolt all the way down without crunching that metal roof profile. Of course, we have our standing seam, a very popular solution, very universally widely applicable to most standing seams. And on the cut sheet, we actually have the dimensions of the cutout profile, so you can make sure that it will fit the standing seam that you're looking at. And a really great feature of this standing seam mount is that the bolt that you tighten isn't what's coming into contact with the metal roof. The bolt that you tighten is going to push these pins in, and the pins don't rotate and will not strip the coating on the metal roof. So it won't cause a rust point. And that's definitely a big feature to highlight to any end customer, that you're using a product that won't damage their roof. The clay tile roof hook, not as popular in Canada, of course. We don't see so many clay tile roofs, but it is a solution that we wanted to offer nonetheless. So this is installed by lifting up that clay tile, and then with 2 to 4 screws tapping into the purlins, the lumber purlins underneath. Accessories. So here we have our top or side equipment mounts. So whether you're mounting a junction box, a microinverter, an optimizer, or anything else you decide to put up on the roof, you can accomplish it with the equipment mounts for the top or side of the rail. We also have our new ground lug. So we're keeping the KHGLUG, the standard ground lug, but this is going to be another product that we offer to allow for some more creative solutions where creativity might be needed. So here you can see in the first image on the left, you have one 6 AWG stranded bare copper entering and another leaving. So for all those random offcuts of 6 AWG bare copper that I'm sure a lot of you have kicking around in the van, you can use them and just use this multi-lug as an extension. So they can essentially join your two stranded coppers together. And then also you could run multiple stranded coppers to the one multi-lug and then come off the roof with a single stranded bare copper. So it can be used as a combiner of sorts for your bonding cables. Next, we have our cable raceways. So these are available in kits. So if you're using a on-center connection spacing of your mounts at 16 inches, you would use the 16-inch kit, and so on. If you're at 48 inches, you'd use the 48-inch kit. Of course, this would provide a full cover of the cables, so it can be a really nice mechanical protection for your conductors. And it is something that would be required to attain a fireproof rating. Part of the fireproof testing is they actually plunge a fireman's axe straight through the modules on the roof. And with this cable raceway, your conductors would be fully mechanically protected. The cable clip tie. So a lot of people are using zip ties. I've done it for sure. But what can happen is that when you wrap the zip tie all the way around the rail, is you're going to cause stress points on the zip tie itself. Now, of course, some zip ties, especially premium ones, are very strong, and that wouldn't necessarily be an issue. But I have seen, unfortunately, some zip ties that are not UV rated and also not the strongest, where they will cause failure points, and those cables might eventually come loose off the rail. So what this product does is allows you to clip these all along the rail so that when you come by later to run your wires, that these can already be in place, and very, very quickly, just you put that in and then zip it shut. So it can help save time on the roof as well. Thermal break. I did want to make a point of discussing this. I think not a lot of people are that familiar with it. So when you have a continuous run of rail, especially, it doesn't have to be a single piece, but joined rails to add up to a total of 50 feet, you're going to want to include a 1/2-inch air gap. Now, there's a couple things that come with that. You're going to want to make sure that your bonding is carried across the rail. So this is the bonding rail jumper kit. But also, you're not going to want to mount a module on top of the air gap. So what you're going to do is, if your rail on the left is 50 feet and the rail on your right is 50 feet, you're not going to mount a module over the gap. You're actually going to have an end clamp mounting the module on the left, and then an end clamp mounting the module on the right. So they'll almost be separate arrays, if you catch my meaning there. So definitely something to keep in mind. Thermal breaks every 50 feet, 1/2-inch air gap, don't mount on top of the gap, continue your bonding. So after you've finished laying all your modules, of course, now it is time for your squirrel guard. So we have a number of rodent guard mesh protection products. The most popular being our mesh, of course, that's available in a 6-inch or 8-inch mesh, and it comes in a 100-foot roll. But we have a number of options of how to mount that mesh to your array. I should also mention we actually offer a 48-inch mesh, which is very helpful for your ground mounts. So where you require mesh on the ground mounts, not so much a rodent guard mesh, more of a human protection mesh at this point from how the inspectors see it. That can be very helpful to have such a wide mesh that you can run vertically up the back or horizontally across the rack itself. So the first way that we mount the mesh to the modules on the roof is with the clip. So the clip essentially just as it is in the name, clips onto the return of the module frame and mounts the mesh. Now, a lot of modules these days don't have much of any return on their short end. That is the module frame at the short end doesn't have much of a lip on the underside. So we had to develop another solution as the industry changes to that more standard form factor. So these are still very helpful along the long sides. Most modules, at least all that I've seen, still have the return on the long sides, but no longer have it on the short sides. So that's where our new universal rodent guard clamp came into the picture. So you can see on that video here how it will adjust to the available thickness of return that is available on the module. So in that way, it's universally widely applicable and only requires just a couple of millimeters there to actually grab onto. Here we can see it from another angle. So a minimum of 1 millimeter frame return on the short side there. And then this, you could use this all the way around the perimeter, but especially on the short side of the module. We, of course, also have our 4-inch square concrete and post mount. Not as popular, but I'm not sure how many people really know about this product. This can be very, very helpful if you're mounting into concrete wall. Let's say you wanted to mount a facade, a wall mount array, which is really helpful for an off-grid system, especially if you want a trickle panel to trickle charge your system, off-grid batteries. Make sure there's no snow accumulation, especially those that leave the cottage over the winter and they don't want their batteries to freeze. This is just a really helpful mount for mounting into concrete and wood, especially if it's going to be a wall mount. So you could also have a deck or a dock or some other lumber or concrete structure you might want to mount to. Do keep this one in mind. I also want to take a minute to talk about conventional racking versus shared rail racking. So on the left, of course, this is your conventional racking everyone is familiar with, but we can actually do shared rail, and there are benefits. So here we can see a direct comparison of the same roof layout. You can see that we are using 30% less rail, 30% fewer mounts, and almost the same number of clamps. So the big difference here is you're using less rail and less mounts. That's less time on the roof. We don't recommend this to someone who's doing it for their very first install, but for those that are familiar with the processes of installing a roof mount system, there is a slightly higher level of precision that is required when installing a shared rail system. So here you can see, since it is slightly different, I wanted to show a graphical representation of just where exactly those mids and end clamps go. So you can see the first rail at the top and the last rail there at the bottom are what we would refer to as conventional rails. They're brought in from the edge. You're clamping in the green zone, but you're clamping on the short side. Now, all of the rest of the rails, you can see, they're actually clamping on the module's long side, still in the green zone, but you have a bit of short side and long side clamping going on here. And you can see where those end clamps are located. So on the shared rail, we have the mounting datum. So that can be seen in the bottom left there. It is not ultimately required, but it is something that will help your shared rail system go more smoothly on the install. So that layout you can see at the center bottom of the screen. Your first rail would be at the very bottom, and then you'd build up the shared rail system from there. And then where you can see those red rectangles, that's actually where the shared rail datums go. So you can see they're at the corners of the panels. So this isn't to clamp, this isn't to do anything other than just provide a guide, just to help that process go smoothly, make sure that the spacing is being maintained, and it actually gives a slightly larger surface area for the module to sit on. And you don't need then someone to stand there and hold the module in place before the next clamps go in. Once you have the datum in place and you're putting your module up above it to rest on it, it can just sit there without sliding off the roof. Next is our ground mount. So this is our Gen 2 static. Some people might be familiar with this. This is with our round bifacial rails, and we have these datum holes that help guide the installation for ease of install. So it's suitable for PV modules up to 2450 by 1160. Minimum shadow for backside of the bifacial modules. So we have our round rails, and we've run some science on those on the rails, shining light from the back. And what's interesting is that a round profile actually casts less shadow onto the modules, providing higher reflectivity and backsheet energy efficiency. So we engineered this for wind loads Q50 up to 1 kPa and snow loads of 2.5 and rain loads of 0.8. So again, keeping in mind wide nationwide compatibility, this has really been designed quite robustly for Canada. So the frame itself is steel, hot dip galvanized, and then the rails are extruded aluminum. It's a fixed tilt of 40 degrees, and it comes with our long warranty of 25 years. It uses all the standard mid clamps, end clamps, and ground locks. Here we can see another angle. You can see here how the round rails are being mounted to those square girders. We have our square U-bracket to accomplish that, and the datum pins are essentially what holds it in place. And here's a cross section of that bifacial rail. It can accommodate spans of up to 125 inches between the supports, and cantilevering over the edge 52 inches. We also offer these end caps. Prevents rodents and birds from nesting on the inside of the rails, and the caps themselves we make in-house, and they're certified and rated within a wide temperature range of what you could expect to find. The foot design allows for a half-inch increments of adjustment. That is those diamond pattern holes there of how the foot actually mounts to the square tube strut. So what that means is that if you're starting your install, you want to mount your first foot on the highest point of the foundation at the lowest hole. And then when you go to mount all of your other feet at possibly, but hopefully not, different heights, because your helical pile might be a little bit higher over here and lower over there, or your concrete ballast. This gives you a good amount of adjustability vertically and slightly horizontally, just to make sure that you'll have a level system, even if your foundations are not all exactly level. So the portrait diagram on here, you can see all the different table sizes. So it goes from 6 to 32 module racks. And then we also offer our landscape version of the static. Portrait is typically going to be your most cost-effective option. But if you do have a desire to mount landscape, we do have a solution for that. And you can see actually on the bottom side channel, we have that bifacial rail mesh stud nut. So that is a separate component that can be ordered separately to mount that 48-inch mesh. So it makes that installation of the mesh quite easy using a K-nut of our standard K-nuts to fit into that channel and then mount the mesh with a K-nut and bolts. We're excited to announce our new Gen 3 adjustable ground mount. So you can see that here. It stocks and ships on a pallet. So this is something that we're really excited about, is being able to ship these on pallets. So we have a really nifty video here where you can see the assembly coming from the pallet to assemble the adjustable tilt rack. The rack itself offers 10 different tilt adjustments if you include 0 as one of them. Someone might be inclined to mount the rack at 0. Let's say you had a hurricane passing by. The 0-degree tilt would be preferable for that. You can go up to 60 degrees for snow shedding in the winter, or if you're just further up north, you might even just leave it at 60 all year round. So it is hot dip galvanized. It's composite of aluminum and steel rails. The rail itself we can see along the bottom of the screen here. And what you see there are the U-brackets that join them and splice these rails together to form longer sections. So each table on that rack image that you can see there, we have 3 articulating tables Each one will tilt independent of the others. And we have those adjustment bars where you just slip off a cotter pin, pull it off the pin, and then move the bar, reset it, and then you got your new tilt. I've adjusted some of these when we did our most recent show, and it's very easy. We have dampeners that help make the movement easy. And of course, if you were to let go for a quick second, it's going to dampen the movement of the table. So we actually have really incredibly wide spans here that will reduce the number of foundations you require. Our east-west span on this rack is 145 inches. And we offer a 20-year warranty on the adjustable ground mount. Ideal, of course, for off-grid. As you know, off-grid, they want to get every ounce of energy they can get from the sun. So being able to reach whatever tilt the end client desires for the season that is the time of year. I should mention as well here, so this is designed, so if you see a 8-panel adjustable, it's going to be 8 of the 1134 modules or 6 of the 1303s. So we're updating our specification sheet on this product here, so you'll be able to see how many of each size module each rack can accommodate. But the SKU itself is based off of number of modules using 1134s, but it can mount 1303s. So like I was just saying here, if we take a look at the K3 AGM6, that'll be 6 of the 1134s. And in this case, it would be 4 of the 1303s on that rack. And then you can see how many A-frames we have based on each table. So each table will mount 6 1134s, and that's 2 A-frames. This is a close-up of what we call the Klein and Deckel rail. Klein being short and Deckel being topper in German. So the Klein and Deckel come together to form our new rail for the adjustable ground mount. Completely comes apart to ship on a pallet. And here you can see just a close-up from our foundation guide. You can see all the foot details. If you were to pass this over to your helical pile installer or your foundation installers, this would have all the information they need to proceed. We of course have our top of pole mounts. We are looking at expanding this category as we see a bit more demand in this ground mount category. But we can accommodate up to 6 modules on a single post, and that's using a 6-inch Schedule 40 post. These can mount fully vertical, so you can mount 0 to 90 degrees. And it says mount up to 8 PV modules. That's going to be if you're using the older, smaller modules like we were just discussing before the presentation here. But it'll be 6 of the big 1134s or 1303s. And lastly, we have our carports. So this is a photo actually from York University in Toronto. We have a charging station set up there, and it's a fully steel assembly with aluminum rails. Each span between the supports is 2 parking spaces or 18 feet, and you have a 90-inch clearance, which will accommodate most all trucks, possibly not high cap vans or sprinter vans. The rack is a 10-degree tilt, and you mount 6 modules in landscape orientation, but clamped in portrait configuration. So I appreciate your time very much. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to help. And as always, feel free to reach out anytime.
Hey, Matt, great. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate it. Hey, folks, just double checking. Great opportunity while we have our friends here at Kinetic. I don't see any questions, but if you do have some questions, please just reach out to your sales reps. Very well versed with Kinetic. As I mentioned before, I think it's now 11 years consistently that we've been dealing with Kinetic. So truly great partner. Some things to be aware of before we go. All spec sheets, install manuals, warranty docs can all be found on our web shop. If you're not on the web shop, I would encourage you to join that. It's a very powerful tool and a great extension to your procurement side of your business. You can meet Kinetic in person as well. We have our Banff Roadshow coming up December 10th, 11th. We have the Halifax one, January 14th and 15th. We have the Mississauga show, February 4th and 5th, and we have Vancouver, February 25th and 26th. And would love to see you there in person and get to spend some time with our friends at Kinetic. Once again, thank you for everyone for joining, and thank you, Matthew. Really appreciate you taking the time to teach us a little more about Kinetic today.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.